My name is Angela Barrow Wilkes. I am Carson's nanny, her daddy's mama. I knew by the time I was 9 years old that I needed to be saved. I wanted Jesus to be the main part of my life.
What made you realize that?
Well, I guess being in Sunday school all the time and going to GAs and stuff like that, and just growing up with that influence and Bible study at home. I can remember taking my color book and crayons to WMU meetings and being underneath my mother's chair coloring, I mean, always in church. But I knew that I had to give my life to Christ, and so, and I was very, very shy. I wouldn't talk to anybody until I knew them really well. I'm not like I am now. I mean, talk to anybody, but, so Mother had the preacher come to the house and talk to me, and she sat on the couch and I sat kind of hidden behind her, and he would say, "Put your head out," and I would do like this, and he would ask me a question. But anyway, so I accepted Christ there that day with him, and that was in 1958. Okay, it's been a long time ago. Then I knew I wanted to be baptized, and I had talked with Mother about that. But that Sunday morning, when I knew I had to go down, she and Daddy wouldn't look at me. They wouldn't tell me to go on. I had to decide that for myself. And for me, being so shy and just wanted to hide from everybody, that was a big step for me. And I can remember doing all of that, but I didn't remember when it was until my mother died and I found my baptismal certificate in her cedar chest. One thing that got me off track, I wanted to be, because I was raised with GAs and missions and all of that, I wanted to be a missionary. And I was 16 and we were at church. We had a revival, and this preacher would, at the end, when he did the invitation, he'd put on this black robe and he would sweat so bad he had like a little hand towel and he'd be wiping his head. Well, all of us teenagers were down there on the front row, or second row, and he came along and says, "Do you know you're saved? Do you know you're saved?" It scared the mess out of me, And what I said was, "I think so," instead of "Yes, I am." And he said, "If you think so, you're not. You go down." Yes. And I went down, and Mother wasn't there for some reason that night.
What do you mean you went?
I went down to the front, and the preacher prayed with me, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I went home and told Mother that I got saved, and she said, "But I thought you already were." And I said, "Well, I guess I wasn't." They told me. So that 16 started this thing where I didn't know if I was saved or not. And it went all through those latter teenage years, and even marrying David Sr. and all that. And I was pregnant with David, and he was out at sea. He was in the Navy. He was out at sea. And I couldn't handle it anymore. I just could not keep going, not knowing, because I would ask Jesus to come into my heart over and over and over. But then Satan would put those lies in my head that you're not really saved. Look what you just did. You're not saved. So I had gone to visit David's parents in Dublin and went to church, and his name was Pastor Hollis. I'll never forget him. And I couldn't hold it back. I went down and told him I didn't know if I was saved, and I needed to know. And so he asked me to stay after church, and he would take me to their house, And he sat and talked to me, and he wanted me to go through everything that had happened, and I told him all of everything that's happened. And he said that he couldn't say if I was saved or not, that I had to decide that on my own, but he told me to start with the book of John and just read and read and read. He said I would tell any new Christian to start with the book of John. And then that, where you were saved at 9 years old or 16, will have to be your own decision, you and God. And so that's kind of where I really, really started to grow.
How did you get over that fear?
Well, it took a while. It wasn't something that happened instantly. It was took a while, quite a few years, to where I knew and didn't have any doubt. Because Satan can kill you with doubt, I'm telling you.
So my nanny's testimony to me reminds me of the hero's journey / the ritual process. But here we're just doing the hero's journey. So as we know, as everyone has really included this in their projects as well, the hero's journey includes the departure, transformation, some trials and tribulations, and then a return. And so here, at the beginning of my Nani's faith journey, when she was 9 years old, she wanted to accept Christ into her heart, but she was hesitant, like she was talking about. She was really shy, but her parents didn't look at her when she was like going down to the altar at church to pray with somebody or like make the decision for herself. They wouldn't tell her, hey, like, go ahead, go on, because she had to decide for herself. So that was kind of representative of departure. And then her transformation part, I think that element was her actually getting saved, similar to like that part of a ritual process. And then her trials included that moment at the revival where she started to really doubt if she was saved or not. And then the return element was that conversation that she had with the new pastor about how she has to decide for herself, and realizing that those thoughts of doubt were not true and that they were from the enemy. So knowing that, I think, gave her power to be able to fight those thoughts. And so overall, that would be her heroic journey.
We called it raisin and nut cake. It was like a fruit cake, but all it had in it was raisins and pecans, in the cake mix. And Mother made them every year. And, we just loved the raisin and nut cakes. And I remember she sent one to Jerry when he was in the Navy, and Jerry said that when he opened it, all he did was cut him a big wedge out of it and set it down and let the other guys have it,
What stuff do you cook now that we love that like you got from someone else?
From someone else? Well, dumplings. We love the dumplings. And I would have made some today, but I didn't have enough juice, enough stock, chicken stock. Watching Mother and Linda, And Linda's the one that put me onto the frozen dumplings. So we don't have to make them up and roll them out. That was a big mess, but we loved them. And we thought my grandmother was the one that made them the best.
All right, y'all, let's talk about food ways. So as my Nani was talking about, the raisin nut cakes and the chicken and dumplings reminded me of when we were talking about the subsistence patterns. So we talked about foods that originated specifically in North and South America, but here I just included the foods from South America because it was really the only foods that I saw mentioned in the recipes she was talking about. And so these foods included potatoes, nuts, tomatoes, chili peppers, fruits, and chocolate. And as we also talked about hunters and gatherers, these foods are more of the gathered ones. And then some foodway traditions are often evident at holidays. This was filmed on Thanksgiving, so that's why she was talking about how she couldn't make the dumplings that day. And just also how family recipes bond generations together, and how the Thanksgiving foods originated in the Americas. I thought it was cool that I got to actually see that same day when I was talking with her about these things.
Her name was Lydia Arlene Davidson Pilkington, and she was the sweetest woman. We called her Mama. We called my mother Mother, and her Mama. And I remember she worked at the children's home in Macon at one time in her life. And I remember I was about 12 years old, and I went up there and stayed with her for a week. And we'd go swimming every day. But she had a group of girls that was about my age that she looked after. And I remember going swimming, and every time we got out of the pool, they would put alcohol drops in our ears. And I had never had that done before. And I thought, why are they doing that? And she told me it was to keep from getting an infection, in your ears. So I did it. It burned a little bit, but it was all right.
All right, lastly, this story about the eardrops in the pool reminded me of when we were talking about folk belief and folk medicine, which hopes for cures for diseases that defy medicine, which are mainly for colds, hiccups, hangovers, warts, stuff like that. These solutions are often passed down from word of mouth and also passed down from generations. So my Nani didn't know about the eardrop thing before that her mama told her at the pool, and so that's how I thought that related here. Okay, y'all, I wanted to do Nani justice, so I included a video at the end just to show you how fun she is. It's from our cruise in May, so enjoy.